You do the intro this time. I'm sick of it. I've had enough.
Okay, hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Tennis Podcast. I'm your sidekick host, Brandon. With me, as always, is Nick.
Wow, well, now I just remembered why we never let you do the intro.
Why? What was wrong with that?
It's just, there was no pizzazz. There was no showmanship.
Sure, show me some showmanship.
This is Nick. This is the Tennis Podcast. This is 100 episode 4 in fucking Spooktober 2020. And this is the show where we bring a top 10 list one of us does, and the other one tries to guess what's on that list.
Yeah.
Did you take notes on that?
Yeah, this is not a 10 list this week. This is a 7 list.
Well, I'm ready to have my mind blown with this list, because I need it. I need to pick me up tonight. What do you got for me?
Well, I'm glad you said pick me up, because for what I think is our last entry in this year's Spooktober, we're going to talk about the states with the most serial killers.
The states with the most serial killers. Okay,
Yeah.
All right. I'll bet I can do this.
This is using the FBI's data. It's a combination of the number of serial killings per capita and then the state totals as well.
Okay.
The U.S. has more serial killers of any country, with more than 2,700 cases.
Oh my God.
Do you know what country is in second place?
It's Russia, isn't it?
No, it's England. England is in second place. USA first place, 2,700. Guess how many confirmed serial killer cases there are in second place, England?
Oh, I've seen this before, because I think I mentioned this on my UK serial killers episode. I want to say it's like not even a tenth, right?
Yeah, it's 145.
Yeah.
It's like 5%.
It's the same with school shootings, man. And every other thing that fucking sucks, America excels at.
We kick ass at it. Well,
all right.
Today I have the top 7 states with the most serial killers. And I chose 7 because this is a combination of a few different lists that rank them in different ways, but I left out the ones where it became repetitive. I whittled it down to a hot, sweet 7.
Yep. Hot, sweet 7. Okay. The most serial killers in American history, yeah?
Since like 1900 and since.
So let's repeat that stat, though, because I think it's poignant. Or is that the right word? Whatever. It's 2,700 something serial killers in American history and 144 in the second most country of the United Kingdom. Brandon, do you have any theory or prepared research on why that might be?
Well, there's more space here, which is the key we'll find here tonight is access to rural or isolated areas. Makes it easy to hide your boo-boos, your oopsies.
Yeah.
And a lot of other places in the world have higher population density, or they don't have access to the kind of isolated areas that most in America have access to.
Yeah.
Oh, in addition to all the violence.
Yeah. And Pepe Le Pew cartoons. Remember we talked about that?
Oh, to encourage sexual deviancy, sexual assault?
Yeah, it like subconsciously implanted the, I guess this skunk can do it, why can't I?
Yeah, I'll just go
gene into America's youth.
Yeah, no means keep trying.
No means he's playing hard to get.
Right.
Oh, American men, they're the best. I'm sure you don't have this offhand, but I'll bet you would agree with me that 9 out of 10, maybe more than that, of probably 99.9 out of 100 serial killers are men.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, probably.
Yeah. And not only are they men, if you're a serial killer, it's usually because it's for sexual gratification, right?
Killing and coming. Yeah, everyone we're talking about tonight here pretty much has the sex is wrapped right up in it. In fact, I don't think there's anyone that we're going to discuss here. There's at least one person tonight for which sex was not a part of their killing. But as we'll find out, there's another big difference in this killer too.
Okay.
So why don't you quit beating around the bush and start making some guesses?
I'm going to weed some states out first. I don't think there's a lot of serial killer activity in Hawaii.
No, it's actually the safest state for serial killers.
But, there's a lot of space in Hawaii, too, so that goes against kind of your theory there at the beginning.
Those teeny tiny islands, they're, tons of space.
Okay, asshole. I'm going to say that there's definitely been serial killers in Alaska. I can name a few, but Alaska's still probably got to be not in the top 7.
You Always bitch at me for this, you magnificent bastard.
No fucking way it's number one. Yeah, there's no way.
Alaska is number one because it has the highest number of serial killings per capita. Alaska is number one on the list. It has 15.5 serial killings per 1 million inhabitants. They actually don't have a total million inhabitants in Alaska. Alaska has about 735,000 residents, which is around the same size as the city we live in, Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's how many residents there are in the entire state of Alaska.
And everyone in the entire state of Alaska is listening right now. So hello, Alaska people.
So there are 51 serial murders between 1900 and 2014 in Alaska. More than half of those occurred during the 1980s. The 1980s was the serial killer decade. It was, if the 80s is known for anything other than John Hughes movies and new wave music and Michael Jackson and Ronald Reagan, should also be known as the serial killer decade. And Alaska led the nation in serial killer murders in the 1980s. They were the top of the top.
Top of the top.
Now, Alaska is a hotspot for serial killers for many reasons. A lot of them are environmental, like the extended winter nights have a profound psychological impact. There's also lots of darkness for cover. And the logging and construction industries attract a lot of lonely men, which in turn attract a lot of sex workers.
So I don't know why you got to fucking roast all the truckers and loggers out there listening, but...
How am I... What's the roast?
You say they're lonely and they're going to be serial killers.
It just attracts a lot of men. There's 9 men to every 1 woman in Alaska or something like that.
I love truckers that are listening.
I bet you do.
Okay. Well, those are all compelling reasons, I believe it, that Alaska... Yeah. And they have the 30 days of night thing, right?
I don't think, no. There's no place that has 30 straight days of night.
Well, that's prime serial killer time if it is.
In some areas in northern Alaska, they have about 2 months. I guess that would be 30 days a night. Yeah.
That would be more than 30.
Motherfucker.
Okay, so let's wait. No. We got to stop here and you need to apologize to me.
No, I don't do that. Alaska has one of the highest rates of violent crime overall in the country. About twice as many violent crimes per capita as any other state. They're just going nutso on each other out there.
Yeah.
And another environmental factor that makes it very easy, very tempting to become a serial killer in Alaska is that at least 75 Alaskan villages have no law enforcement at all. They rely on Alaska state troopers who may take hours to respond to a call.
Well, a law enforcement, I don't know. Some way of dealing with crime is one of the first things any community should establish. Yeah,
even in the Old West, wasn't one of the first every town had, at least in where I did all my Western research and movies, every town had a mayor and a sheriff.
Yeah,
it was one of the first things you did. If you didn't have a sheriff, you at least had a marshal that would come around once in a while.
So we're gonna pin this on them, right? On these towns?
We're going to pin it on, everyone who the people who lived in a village that was remote.
And you haven't even mentioned the most important element of Alaska that breeds serial killers yet.
What's that?
It's fucking cold.
And they just get upset about it?
Yeah, don't you get cranky when you get cold?
I think the
heat. I know you do, but it's because of the arthritis in your old bones. But the average person...
You would think heat would get people, would get you hot for murder.
Yeah, but then you just get too tired to do anything. But you're right, heat is another big one, but we're not talking about heat right now, we're talking about cold. We're talking about Alaska. There's other hot places later that I'll guess.
Okay. Israel Keyes is probably one of the most recently famous and well-known serial killers that operated in Alaska.
Yeah, he's the first one I thought of.
But how about one you maybe didn't think of? Do you know about Robert Hansen, the butcher baker?
I've definitely heard that name, but no, I don't know his story at all.
Well, this guy was a real piece of work. Between 1971 and 1983, Hansen abducted, raped, and murdered, at least 17 women in and around Anchorage, Alaska.
Can't do that.
He hunted many of them down in the wilderness. He used a Ruger Mini 14 and a knife. He was arrested and convicted in 1983 and sentenced to 461 years and a life sentence without the possibility of parole. Seems like overkill, but maybe he'll live a really long time.
Maybe.
Okay, so Robert Hansen was born in 1939 and grew up in Iowa. He became a baker, just like his Danish immigrant father.
That's great.
And they later moved to Alaska. He was skinny and shy with a stutter and severe acne. He had those horn-rimmed glasses. He looked like a human version of Milhouse from The Simpsons.
I gotta look him up.
And he was described as a quiet loner. In 1960, Hansen burned down a county board of education school bus garage. It was revenge for his unpopularity at school. During the subsequent 20 months of incarceration, his wife filed for divorce, and he was diagnosed as bipolar with periodic schizophrenic episodes. And a doctor said he was obsessed with getting back at those who had wronged him. He then began killing around 1972. And what this guy did was he picked up a prostitute in his car, forced her at gunpoint into his cabin, and he would torture her and rape her. So already being kind of an asshole, a bit kind of an ass. And he would fly her out to a secluded area to hunt her like wild game before shooting and stabbing her.
God damn. Well, there was another killer that did that, right?
I don't know. This is the only one I could remember. Although I do seem to remember someone who would hunt people with a bow and arrow, but
yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
I don't think he used a bow and arrow.
Okay.
FBI Special Agent John Douglas. Do you recognize that name? He was the criminal profile pioneer who wrote the book Mindhunter that inspired the show.
Okay, yeah.
This guy, FBI Agent John Douglas, thought the killer would be an experienced hunter with low self-esteem, have a history of being rejected by women, and would feel compelled to keep souvenirs of his murders, such as a victim's jewelry. He also suggested the assailant might stutter. I don't know how he could get that, but it's amazing.
Yeah,
Using that profile, Alaska State Trooper Detective Glenn Floth investigated possible suspects until he reached Hansen, who fit the profile and owned a plane. Isn't that nuts? Like, after this guy, like, he forces you to, in his home at gunpoint, his cabin, and assaults you and tortures you, and then he forces you in an airplane and starts flying you somewhere.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Yeah,
and you got to be like tied up at that point, right? On the plane?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Upon searching Hansen's home, authorities found a map with X's on locations that matched the locations of bodies that they had discovered and many yet unexplored locations. Hansen is known to have raped and assaulted over 30 women, murdered at least 17, ranging in ages from 16 to 41. Oh, he didn't make the end of his sentence. He died in prison in 2014 at age 75 of natural causes.
While you're going there, I realized, we probably should have given a trigger warning at the beginning of this episode that's going to get fucking brutal, right?
Well, I did say serial killers.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
There you go. Alaska.
Robert Hansen, fuck him. And you been to Alaska, Brandon?
No. I'd like to go,
Me either, but I'd like to go.
This probably wasn't the best postcard for it.
No, yeah. Well, I did not think Alaska would be in the top 7. My guess for number 1 is now my guess for number 2. I'll save it. I'm going to guess this state is 3 or 4, and that's Washington.
Washington State is number 5 on the list.
I knew it. And I think a lot of the things you said about Alaska could also apply to Washington, as in like it's known for being a depressing place. It has the highest suicide rate either in the world or at least America. It's cloudy. The sun's not out a lot. It's rainy.
It's got tons of prostitutes.
Yeah, that too.
There's 277 known serial killings that took place in Washington State, with 95 individual serial cases. This includes several notorious serial killers in Washington State, like Robert Lee Yates, who murdered at least 16 women in Spokane, and Ted Bundy. He began killing in 1971 in Washington in his hometown of Seattle.
You also have the Green River Killer.
And that is who we're going to talk about next, the Green River Killer. What's his we know his superhero name. What's his human identity?
Fuck, no, I know it. Hang on.
It's a really
Gary Ridgway.
Really hot guy's name. Yeah, Gary Ridgway.
It's the most boring ass name. I always forget about him. He's like, this is gonna sound bad, but like for those of us interested in serial killers, Gary Ridgway has always been one of the more boring ones to me.
Part of it is that he's not very charismatic. He's got an IQ in the low 80s. He's a bit of a doy.
Yeah. Hell of an ass, though.
He also was, what do you call him, an evangelistic Christian. He was like a hardcore Christian who wouldn't shut up about the Lord all the time, but also visited prostitutes and murdered them.
Loved prostitutes. Yeah, you got to watch out for those types of people.
This Doy Gary was one of the most prolific serial killers in American history, proving, the archetype of a serial killer is this like very smart but very tortured, deviant guy.
Yeah.
Maybe looks a little creepy, but, passes in normal society.
But didn't he have a stable family life as an adult? I mean, like wife and kids, and he had he was a member of society, right?
I think so. He was like a mechanic or something.
Yeah.
He's not, I guess what I was trying to say is he's not clever. It's not like he was, I don't know, he wasn't doing anything super clever. He just happened to do a lot of it to sex workers who I guess weren't as...
Yeah, they're the less dead as has been said. And what that means is, I mean, it's kind of obvious, I guess, but sex workers are not going to be investigated as much as like a blonde, young, white housewife.
No, on account of they're not paying any taxes.
One of many examples. Yeah.
Yeah, so he got his nickname, the Green River Killer, after many of his victims were discovered along Washington's famous Green River. Most of his victims were young, vulnerable women, many of them being sex workers who Ridgway had hired for sex, not to paint a fence. His preferred method of killing was strangulation, after which he would dump the bodies in wooded areas or in the river itself, and I guess it says he would often return to have sex with them, which I knew, but I guess he's only returning to have sex with the ones in the woods, not the ones in the river.
And the way that sounds, if you hear that sentence out of context, he returned to have sex with them.
It sounds like a rambling man who rambles back into town and is like, hey, Sally, I'm back to show you that love you've been missing. But no.
Yeah, it sounds like the lady is there waiting, and that's not the case. These are dead people.
No, that's necrophilia. It's a different kind of rambling man.
But, Washington is a place like Alaska as well that has so much space and wooded...
Too many trees.
Trees and wooded areas that are perfect for hiding and having sex with dead bodies, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think
What are you trying to think, Brandon?
I don't know. I guess I'm having a hard time identifying with these serial killers.
Mm-hmm.
So despite being a Forrest Gump... guy, Ridgway managed to evade capture for almost 20 years after his first murder. He was eventually arrested in 2001. After he was identified as a suspect in the Green River killings, DNA evidence finally cemented his guilt. And in order to escape the death penalty, Ridgway accepted a plea bargain confessing to 48 killings, for which he received 48 consecutive life sentences. Didn't he bullshit some of those though?
Yeah, I don't think there's 48 confirmed. I don't think there's 48 bodies to go with those.
That's killings. What you get when you ask a Gump to start confessing to stuff. Isn't it him that no, there was some serial killer who was confessing to stuff just because he would
Henry Lee Lucas.
Yeah, he was getting treats and stuff, right?
Henry Lee Lucas was the confession killer. He was treated like a celebrity.
Didn't you kill someone down in Pismo Beach? And he's like, yeah, isn't there a fucking In-N-Out down there? Let's swing by.
Watch The Confession Killer on Netflix. Yeah, so Gary Ridgway, real dickhead, huh?
A bit of an idiot. That was number 5, Washington.
Washington has its great qualities as well. Let's not smear Washington. It's one of my favorite states.
No, it's not all serial killers.
No, but there's a lot of them there. You know, right before me and Brandon hit record today, he and I were talking, and he asked, Nick, how'd you get your balls so smooth? It's because I use Manscaped. Manscaped and its Lawnmower 3.0 is the best hygiene tool for the modern man. Because of their ceramic blade and skin-safe technology, your nicks and snags will be reduced. Hey, nicks and snags, not so bad, right? This is the perfect protection needed for your balls. The Lawnmower 3.0 is also waterproof and has an LED light on it. It's a game changer. They just released their Shears 2.0 nail kit, which is the perfect add-on to their Lawnmower 3.0 trimmer. And no one likes an ungroomed set of feet, fingers, and most importantly, balls. That's why they have forever changed the grooming name with their Perfect Package 3.0. It comes with the new and improved Lawnmower Performance Boxer Briefs, a travel bag for you to use when you're done quarantining, and some other liquid formulations like the Crop Preserver and Crop Reviver. I'm not making this up. The Crop Preserver is an anti-chafing ball deodorant which ensures that your afternoon stroll doesn't end with your balls sticking to your leg or smelling like eggs. The Crop Reviver is a spray-on toner for your balls. It's made with soothing aloe and with hazel extracts that will give your testes the boost it needs. For a limited time, subscribers get not one, but 2 free gifts: the Shed Travel Bag, a $39 value add-on, and the patented high-performance anti-chafing Manscaped Boxer Briefs. Right now, Tennis Podcast listeners can get 20% off plus free shipping with the code 10ish at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code 10ish at manscaped.com. You can go now to manscaped.com, get that 20% off and free shipping. Did I mention it's 20% off and free shipping? I can't remember if I mentioned it's 20% off and free shipping, but it is. It's manscaped.com, promo code 10ish. It's time to give your testes the absolute besties with Manscaped. Let's go with number 6 or 7 as New York State.
New York State is not in the top 7.
Well, you're wrong.
Okay.
Let's go with 3 or 4 as Florida.
Florida is number 3 in the states with the most serial killers. There's 9.92 serial murders per million inhabitants in the state of Florida. That's
a lot.
Is Florida the Sunshine State? Or is that California?
No, that's Florida. California is the
Golden State.
Yep. Golden State Warriors.
All right. Total number of serial killers committed in the state of Florida, 778. 247 of those murders taking place during the 1980s.
Welcome to the Sunshine State.
Now, Ted Bundy, we already mentioned him just a minute ago in Washington State. Well, he's also famous for murders in Florida. That's where he murdered the Florida State co-eds. That's also where he got the chair.
That's the famous bite mark victim was Florida, right?
Yeah. It's also home to Eileen Wuornos, famous female serial killer. Are you familiar with the Gainesville Ripper? I think I might have even mentioned him on here before.
Well, what's his name?
His name's Danny Rolling. He murdered 5 students during a burglary and robbery spree in Gainesville in August 1990. He mutilated his victims' bodies, decapitating one, and then he posed them, sometimes using mirrors. That's not the one
that's bad. We're
concentrating on today. We're talking about another female serial killer, and this is the one I mentioned earlier, the rare one that doesn't seem to have anything sexual wrapped up in her serial killing. This is the killer babysitter, Christine Falling.
Okay, I don't know her deal, so you're going to fill me in here.
Well, I'm going to fill everybody in the least gross way I can. Christine Laverne Slaughter. Ooh, hell of a name.
That's
Christine Laverne Slaughter was the youngest child in an unusual family. Her father, Thomas, was 65 years old at the time of her birth, while her mother, Anne, was at the age of 16 still a minor.
Damn.
Blech.
That's bad.
Was impoverished and neglected. And partially due to neglect, she was mentally challenged and suffered from epilepsy. She spent time in various orphanages during her youth. She compensated for her insecurities as a kid and her pent-up anger by killing small animals, especially domestic cats, at an early age. Sometimes, in order to test their 9 lives, she later justified her actions, Christine would cause the animals to fall from heights.
You don't have to say anything else. I already hate her.
Yeah, not a fan of Christine.
Can't do that to kitties.
In September 1977, the 14-year-old Christine was forced by her parents to marry a 20-year-old man named Goober Falling.
No fucking wait.
Falling? I'm going to say Falling. Goober Falling.
Wait, you're just going to pass over that name like it's the most normal goddamn thing in the world?
No, there's nothing else on Goober, though, just that his name was Goober Falling.
Brandon, Goober's one of your favorite words, and I've never known anyone that's legally named Goober. And you
There's a guy I went to high school with named Cooter.
All right. Fucking whatever. I'm trying to... I thought you'd be thrilled, but whatever.
I read it a long time ago. The thrill is worn off. So, yes, 14-year-old Christine was forced to marry a 20-year-old Goober named Goober Falling. But they started fighting every day, and they got divorced after only 6 weeks.
That's what fucking happens when you have an arranged marriage with...
So after that divorce, she became seriously ill. She was hospitalized over 50 times in the next 2 years, suffering from hallucinations. And this has to be something really crazy for them to have mentioned it. It says she was suffering from hallucinations and menstrual bleeding at irregular levels.
That's not, I mean...
I feel like, if someone has a bunch of heavy flow or someone has some, irregularity, it's usually not worth mentioning. The fact that they mentioned it...
We need to pause here for a second.
Yeah.
Do you ever get down on your knees and look up at the skies and thank the good, just Lord for not being...
That I don't bleed at irregular levels?
For not being a lady. Ladies got it. They got it the worst.
Yeah.
I mean, I think about, if I was a woman, I would constantly, my entire life, in the back of my mind, be thinking about how fucking awful giving birth is going to be.
Well, you don't have to do it.
No, I am. I don't know what my point is, just, I feel for my ladies out there.
Well,
all the single ladies and all the taken ladies.
Well, park that shit, because, catch this. At age 16, Christine got diagnosed as incapacitated on medical instructions. Not quite sure what that means, but it seems like she was stamped on the head as being donkey brains. So in order to make money, Christine Falling began working as a babysitter for neighbors and friends. In February 19...
Yeah, that's what you want to do with donkey brains, is let them care for your children while you're not there.
Right. Well, it went kind of like you thought it might. In February 1980, 2-year-old Cassidy Johnson was diagnosed with meningitis caused by traumatic brain injuries. She died 3 days later. Christine Falling had been babysitting and claimed that the baby fell from a crib. The doctor didn't believe her and recommended on a police notepad to check Christine out. But the note was lost by the police department, and Falling moved away to Lakeland, Florida, where another 4-year-old died under her care. During that child's funeral, Christine was caring for another 2-year-old, who then died a few hours later.
No.
Doctors diagnosing a viral infection.
Hang on, is Christine 16 here?
No, she is 17 in 1980.
Okay.
So she's she's like 17 years old. So then she moved back to her hometown of Perry in northern Florida in 1981. She would have been 18 years old. And no one would trust her with their kids.
Well, I mean, sorry, Christine. That's kind of what happened.
So she started working as a nursing assistant for seniors. 77-year-old William Swindle died in his kitchen on the same day that Falling started caring for him. In fall of the same year, the daughter of Christine's half-sister, 8-month-old Jennifer Daniels, died. When Christine's half-sister had gone to the supermarket, she left her daughter with Christine for a few moments in the car, during which time the girl stopped breathing. Doctors suspected sudden infant death syndrome to be the cause of death. So the turning point in this fucking death streak was the death of 10-week-old Travis Coleman, who died on July 2nd, 1982, while Christine was taking care of him in Blountstown.
Where?
Blountstown? Blunttown.
Is that like a fucking trampoline park for kids or something?
Blountstown. Blounts. Blount's town.
Okay, all right.
At the autopsy, the doctors found internal injuries they said could only have been caused by suffocation. When the police contacted Falling, she confessed to murdering 3 of the children because she had heard voices telling her, "Kill the baby."
Damn.
She suffocated the children with pillows and blankets. She's still alive. She's 57 years old. Still serving out her life sentence in prison.
What was the total victim count there? Sounded like a lot.
Just 5 kids.
Okay. I mean, not to state the obvious, but as a parent, you leave your kid with someone, you have to have a certain amount of trust in them to leave your kids with them. I just can't imagine how, not only the obvious feelings of heartbreak and grief that you would have to find out they were killed or died, but also just the frustration and anger at yourself you'd have for like leaving. It's got to be a complicated.
The first thing you should ask when you're hiring a babysitter is, have you ever killed any kids?
Yep.
That you were
babysitting? First thing I do.
Or that you weren't babysitting. I want to know if you have developed a taste for it.
Are you parents out there writing this down? Write down these tips we're giving you.
Tips.
Free advice. Ask your babysitters.
All right.
But something else you said that stood out to me is that the police lost that note from the doctor that said, check this lady out.
Yeah, pretty important note.
Doesn't happen these days, huh? I guess it happened, like people lose shit, but now you got technology. So that's that. Anything else on Florida?
Nope. We're ready for another guess.
I'm going to say number 2 is my birth state of California.
You messed up. California is number 4 on the list.
God, I was still right.
You're not, but California is still number 4 on the list. Now, during the serial killer decade of the 1980s, no place was hotter than California, where their criminals committed 20% of serial murders nationwide.
God damn.
California has had 1,507 serial killer murders, or 7.81 deaths per million inhabitants. Now, they have several standout serial killers in terms of notoriety. There's Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, the Freeway Killer. That was actually 3 separate murders that were classed together as one. The Manson family, the Zodiac Killer, the Golden State Killer. But the one we're going to talk about for a few minutes here tonight is Ed Kemper, the co-ed killer.
Edmund Kemper. There's a very funny coincidence of us talking about Edmund Kemper today that will become apparent here in a minute. Go ahead.
With telling you about Ed Kemper?
Yeah, well, we have a promo later for a podcast that's named after Edmund Kemper.
Well, God bless. Okay, well, let me get into this. Edmund Kemper, the co-ed killer, a.k.a. Bumblebutt.
And you fucking just...
What?
Sorry. It's just crazy. The podcast we're playing later is called the Bumblebutt Podcast.
Yeah, he's a Bumblebutt.
I know. I just can't believe the odds of us talking about this tonight. So go ahead.
It's here in my notes, a.k.a. Bumble. And Bumblebutt is one of those words that Word doesn't recognize and puts a red squiggly under.
Yeah.
Let's see what it suggests. Nothing. Oh, wait. Bumblebees.
Bumblebees, they got bumblebutts too.
It's not bumblebees. He was noted for his large size. He was 6 feet 9, or is 6 feet 9 inches tall, although he's probably shrank some, right? He's older.
That's a big boy.
6 foot 9 inches, and for his high intellect, possessing an IQ of 145.
Man, it's almost as high as me.
There's some really great podcasts out there on old Bumblebutt. I'm sure we're going to find out about later. But briefly, this guy, he killed his grandparents at age 15.
He did.
And he went to jail for only 2 years.
And this is years before. Yeah. Yeah. That's a crazy thing. You kill your grandparents and you're out in 2 years. I mean,
Isn't that every young man's dream? Kill your grandparents?
No comment.
And get away with it, mostly?
No comment.
In the early 1970s, Kemper began picking up young hitchhikers who were Fresno State students. Eventually, this escalated to killing them and cutting their heads off.
Naturally. As one does.
Then on some occasions, he had sex with the corpses.
Not cool, Edmund.
Just before his capture, Ed Kemper killed his mother by smashing her head with a hammer and decapitating her. Did you know that?
I did. Are you going to share the most disturbing part of this?
I'm going to share several disturbing parts.
Okay.
If you're driving around listening to this and you got kids in the car, you need to drop them off at the police station because you already have messed up big time. But if they're still listening, just turn it down a little bit. Or do that thing where you turn the sound only to like the speakers in the front and they'll never hear it in the back.
Is that a thing? Well, We do have kid-sized tennis merch for them. Tennispod.com/merch.
Yeah, I saw that there's a licking machine onesie for a baby. Would you put your baby in that?
I mean, yeah, of course. I'd send him to school with that on.
All right. So listen, I got to tell you how this serial killer killed his mother.
Tell me.
He waited for her to fall asleep, and then he bludgeoned her with a claw hammer. And then he slit her throat with a knife. Terrible thing to do. Extremely unkind.
Yeah.
Then he decapitated her and engaged in irrumatio with her severed head. Now, irrumatio is another word that has a red squiggly line under it. It is active participation in fellatio by the male member. It is aggressive insertion of the penis into a partner's mouth or throat. I get it. It's a $10 word for mouth fucking. Face fucked her. So he cut off his mom's head and he did that to her with her severed head. And then he used it as a
I'm just going to let it go. I'm not going to make any comments on it.
Kemper stated that he put her head on a shelf and he screamed at it for an hour, threw darts at it, and ultimately smashed her face in. He also cut out her tongue and her larynx. He put them in a garbage disposal, but the garbage disposal couldn't break down the tough vocal cords and ejected the tissue back into the sink. That seemed appropriate, Kemper later said, as much as she'd bitched and screamed and yelled at me over so many years.
Damn. He's got a roaster even after all this.
He was found guilty on 8 counts of first-degree murder, and he is still serving his sentence.
And he's also a very important character in the Netflix series Mindhunter that we've already mentioned tonight.
Yeah, he's fun.
He's an interesting guy. He's layered.
That's too bad. I bet there's not a lot of roles for the guy who plays him.
He nailed that role, though.
Man, he was great. He was really engaging.
Just like us.
Yeah, just like us. Is this the perfect place to throw to bumblebutts?
As longtime listeners of this show know, like everyone in Alaska, every single citizen of Alaska, among others, we start this show, and when Brandon has a list, I do not know what he's going to talk about. Could be anything. We do not talk about what the topic of the show is. And it just so happens, in the most craziest coincidence of all time, in all of history, that I have a promo for another podcast prepared for the Bumblebutt podcast. It's named after Edmund Kemper, who is called a Bumblebutt. And it's a true crime comedy podcast, but they also cover all kinds of serial killers, murders, organized crimes, cults, UFOs, paranormal. Here is their promo for the Bumblebutt podcast.
Hello, everyone. Have you ever found yourself looking for something to entertain yourself while at work, at church, or on a promising first date? We have just the thing for you. My name is Adam.
My name is Cody.
And my name is Jordan.
All together now, ready? And we are the Bumblebutt Podcast. Comedy-based true crime show covering topics such as
murder,
serial killers,
cults,
aliens,
paranormal,
masonry updates,
cryptids.
To be honest, any topic we deem interesting. New episodes released every Sunday. And you can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, almost anywhere you listen to your favorite shows. Can't get enough of the main show? We also do a midweek irreverent banter show called
Between the Bumbles
to hold you over until Sunday finally arrives.
Brandon, you don't seem shook enough of this coincidence. Is this is maybe confirmation of a grand designer.
Why do you assume that this power is held by some third party and not by me? I know every move you're going to make.
Okay. Yeah, you're fucking done. So we got 1 Alaska, 3 Florida, 4 California, 5 Washington. That means 2 is Texas.
Texas is not in the top 7.
Now that cannot be right. I know everyone in Texas is a serial killer.
They have a lot of one-off gun duels.
Okay. Colorado.
Colorado is not in the top 7.
I don't think this is top 7, but I'll mention it because we live there. Oklahoma.
No.
Virginia.
No.
I was thinking like DC area. Kansas.
Nope.
BTK's Kansas. Okay. Running out of states here.
Okay.
New Mexico.
New Mexico is not in the top 7.
Arizona.
Nope.
Utah. Nevada. Vegas.
Nevada is number 2 on the list.
Had to keep you guessing, but I knew it.
I have 12.19 serial murders per million inhabitants. They've had 98 serial murders since 1900. 33 of them committed in the 1980s.
If I was President Trump, I'd say, it is what it is.
Nevada is also home to one of the highest violent crime rates in the country, according to FBI statistics. Some of this may be due to the historic ties to organized crime, contributing to the serial murders. They also have a high number of tourists, desperate individuals who are down on their luck, and sex workers that create an ideal pool of victims.
Ideal pool of victims. Imagine if you were grouped into the ideal pool of serial killer victims.
You got to get out of that pool.
You got to get out of that pool.
Now, the serial killers that I found out about as part of this. Have you ever heard of Gerald and Charlene Gallego?
No.
They committed some of their most heinous crimes in Nevada. Gerald, of this couple, was born in 1946. I feel like this is the most time I've ever said sex workers in an episode. He was born in 1946 to a sex worker mother and a criminal father. His father was actually the first man executed in a Mississippi gas chamber for killing a cop during a prison escape. Gerald began a criminal career at the age of 13 by sexually abusing a 6-year-old girl.
Oh.
He later worked as a bartender and a truck driver. Didn't you say you love truck drivers?
Well, I just said they're not all awful and terrible people like you said.
Well, this is the point against him.
Some of them are. Some of them are.
He was married a total of 7 times, 2 marriages to the same woman. He was still married to a previous wife when he married Charlene. Now, okay. Charlene Williams Gallego was born in 1956. She's 10 years younger, a smart, shy child from a supportive home. Charlene started using drugs and alcohol as a young adult. She was married twice before meeting Gallego.
They got 10 marriages between them.
Yeah.
Just so you know. Is this guy fucking Brad Pitt? Why are so many women marrying him? And one of them got away and then came back. He said he married her twice.
He actually doesn't look too bad. Charlene would lure young women to a nearby van where they would be abducted, raped, and kept as sex slaves by Gerald before he killed them. They were.
I hate these couples that do this shit.
Yeah, she got like a reduced sentence saying that she was a victim as well, that he had like made her do it.
It's just like the toy box killer in New Mexico. He had a female companion that helped him do this shit too, and I'm pretty sure she got off.
Yeah, she's full of it. She was helping. She was a sicko.
Yes, that's my point.
Yeah, sickos. So anyway, that's Nevada.
Well, Gerald and what's her name? They didn't get away with it, right?
No, let's see. I may have missed how they got. Let's
learn together.
Oh yeah, the way they got found was not very exciting. A friend of one of their last, so the last victims were 22-year-old Craig Miller and his fiancee, 21-year-old Mary Elizabeth Sowers. They were leaving a fraternity party in November of 1980 when they were forced into the Gallegos' car at gunpoint. Miller, the male, he was ordered out of the car and he was shot. His body was found near Bass Lake, California. The couple returned to their apartment with Mary Elizabeth Sowers, where Gerald sexually abused her before taking her to a field in Placer County, California, where he then executed her. So a friend of Miller and Sowers had witnessed their abduction, reported the car's license plate number, which is kind of like, I don't know, it's not like, I mean, it's great that they were captured, but it's not like a huge, crack in the case. Someone just happened to see this thing go down.
Yeah.
Police used that information to track them down and arrest them at a Western Union office. Charlene's parents were in the process of wiring her money. They pled not guilty to charges of kidnapping and murder. Charlene's attorneys were eventually able to convince prosecutors to allow her to testify against Gerald for a plea deal that reduced her prison sentence 16 years and 8 months.
How many years? 18?
Yeah, so I can't tell which one they're talking about. It just says Gallego died of cancer in Nevada Prison Medical Center while awaiting execution. Oh, I guess that's got to be him. So she seems to still be alive in prison. Maybe.
Fuck her.
No, sorry, I got this all wrong. In July 1977, Charlene completed her sentence and was released.
No.
Yeah, in prison, she extensively studied psychology, business, and Icelandic literature.
Okay.
And then she did an interview saying that she was a victim as well.
Yeah, I don't believe it for a second.
Anyway, that guy's fucking dead. He died of cancer. Probably ate his ass out.
Probably ate his ass out, yeah. So that's the great state of Nevada. God bless Nevada.
Yeah. Even though sports had a break, your business didn't. You have to keep moving, and that makes hiring more important than ever. Indeed is here to help. Indeed.com is the #1 job site in the world because they get you the best people fast. Unlike other job sites, Indeed gives you full control and payment flexibility over your hiring. You only pay for what you need, you can pause your account anytime, and there are no long-term contracts. Plus, Indeed provides powerful tools to make your search that much easier, like sponsored jobs. Those are shown to be 3.5 times more likely to result in a hire, with 73% of online job seekers visiting each month. Indeed.com is going to get you the important hire you need, just like they have for over 3 million businesses. Right now, Indeed is offering our listeners free $75 credit to boost your job post. That means more quality candidates will see it fast. Try Indeed out with a free $75 credit at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. This is their best offer available anywhere. Go right now. Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply.
I don't know if you've heard or not, maybe you've been living in a barn or under a rock, but foosball is back. And even though you might not be going to a game this year, you can still get in on the action with our friends at Bet Online. Bet Online is going the extra mile to make sure you can get in on every possible chance to win this season. From game spreads and totals to team, player, and coaching props, Bet Online gives you more options to wager than anywhere else. And you can get in on their season opening bonuses today and start off wagering on wins, division, and championship futures all day, every day. All you got to do is head to Bet Online today and take advantage of all the great sign-up bonuses. Don't forget to use promo code BLUEWIRE at betonline.ag. That's BLUEWIRE, Blue Wire, all one word, at betonline.ag. And don't forget, Bet Online, they're your online sportsbook experts.
So you just got numbers 6 and 7 left.
Yeah, and I'm going to nail them because I have some good guesses.
Uh-huh.
You mentioned organized crime in Vegas, and that reminded me of the organized crime in Chicago. So is Illinois in the top 7?
Illinois is not.
But you got to hand it to me for the guess.
That is a good guess. That's also where John Wayne Gacy's from. So, no, good guess.
Gacy, let's talk about Dahmer. He's Wisconsin, but I don't think Wisconsin's in there, right?
Wisconsin's not on here.
That's also has Ed Gein. I'm going to say in the top 7 is Michigan.
Nope.
Pennsylvania.
Nope.
Ohio.
Nope.
Louisiana.
Louisiana is number 7 on the list.
I nailed it. I can't be stopped with these guesses.
Yeah.
I'm just going to nail this whole list. This list only has a matter of time before it's got.
You're like Thanos. You are inevitable because there's only 50 states. You're eventually. So anyway, Louisiana, the total number of serial killings in Louisiana stands at 276, or 7.35 per million inhabitants. From 1989 to 2014, Louisiana averaged 13.7 murders per 100,000 inhabitants, which is more than double the national average.
Yeah, New Orleans is...
You think of like Mardi Gras, you think of jambalaya, spicy food.
Jambalaya.
Think of jazz. You think of getting murdered.
Think of getting murdered. I know. If I have a rough day at work and I'm like, fuck it, I think I'm just going to get murdered today. I'll hop on a plane, go to New Orleans, just walk around, and eventually I'll get murdered.
You ever heard of the Axeman?
Oh yeah, I know the Axeman.
You do? Well, fucking get ready to hear about it again.
He's an Axeman. Do 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 da da do.
No, it's not. It's fucking scat, man.
I know the Axeman. He's a side character in American Horror Story Season 3, Coven.
Oh, well, the Axeman of New Orleans was a serial killer named by the press in the early 20th century who terrorized New Orleans from 1910 to 1919, breaking into houses.
So long ago.
He was breaking into houses and murdering people in their sleep with an axe.
It's just not fair to do it that way.
It's awesome.
No, what?
Chop, 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 chop.
You're an evil bastard.
Now listen, the series of attacks, it culminated in a letter that he sent to Louisiana newspapers, supposedly from the Axeman himself, claiming he was of otherworldly origin, a spirit and a demon from the hottest hell. This letter also stated that another victim would be murdered at 12:15 a.m. on the night of March 19th, 1919, but provided the caveat that the murderer would pass by any home where the residents played jazz. So just the guy who probably put out a jazz record was like, fucking need to get some jazz off the shelf.
But why, if he's otherworldly, he's from hell, the fuck does he care about jazz? They don't play jazz in hell.
If they don't, I'm going to be really bored down there. On the night of the 19th, the residents of New Orleans packed every home and dance hall with jazz bands, and the night passed with no murders. He committed his final murder in October 1919 before disappearing into the night. No one ever learned the terrifying Axeman's true identity.
See, why? That's such an interesting story, and it's definitely not on the level of like a Zodiac killer and the Axeman. Well, I mean, everyone, even people who have zero interest in true crime, everyone has heard of the Zodiac killer. Whereas even true crime people have barely, if at all, heard of the Axeman. But he was never caught, just like Zodiac, and he may have even had more victims.
Yeah.
And he dealt with the press.
Well, until 2018, the Golden State Killer was not caught either. And I think there's a definite correlation between being caught and having an end to the story or a complete story of a serial killer and how, popular or well-known they are. And with at least one huge exception being the Zodiac killer.
And Jack the Ripper.
Oh, yeah. Here's another famous or notorious serial killer from Louisiana that I didn't know about. Clementine Barnabet. She was the first female African-American serial killer. She was believed to have been born around 1894 in St. Martinville, Louisiana, to Raymond Barnabet and Nina Porter. She also had a brother named Zephyrin, which is a hell of a name.
Named what?
Zephyrin.
Okay. It's no Goober, but still pretty good.
Zephyrin Barnabet. Clementine Barnabet's father, I guess it would have been Zephyrins too, Barnabet's father reportedly abused his family. Barnabet's killings followed a consistent pattern. She would often murder entire families rather than one person, using an axe for butchering her victims and cutting off their heads. Holy shit. She was doing this at the same time the Axeman was doing his axing.
Was it in New Orleans?
No, she was in other places in Louisiana, near New Orleans. Her first murder occurred in February 1911. Her father, Raymond Barnabet, was awaiting trial. I guess, so the reading of this was kind of mixed up. It sounds like her father was awaiting trial, possibly for the first murder that she committed.
Oh, damn.
And while he was awaiting trial, another familicide, which is when you murder a whole family, took place. In November 1911, Norbert and Asima Randall and their 4 children were murdered in a similar manner to the previous slayings. Eventually, Clementine Barnabet confessed to 35 murders.
God damn.
She explained her connection to the Church of Sacrifice, an offshoot of Christ's Sanctified Holy Church congregation in Lake Charles, Louisiana. This is like hoodoo voodoo stuff. Clementine claimed that a priestess of the Church of Sacrifice had given her and her friends conjure bags, which are hoodoo items, that would grant them supernatural powers and make them undetectable to the authorities, which it did not. This spurred Barnabet.
Did for a while?
Yeah, it did for a while. It's true. Maybe she should have, re-upped. This spurred Barnabet into committing her first murder to test whether or not this was true. At only 18 years old, in October 1912, Clementine Barnabet was sentenced to life in prison at Angola State Penitentiary. In July 1913, she tried to escape jail but was caught. However, in August 1923, so this is 11 years later, when she was 29 years old, Barnabet was released from prison, after which no knowledge exists on her whereabouts. I don't know.
Well, she at least didn't kill anyone else. Well, not that we know
of, but I'm going to say maybe she probably did.
That's a hell of a story. 35 people and families. It's
That's
so
an
interesting.
18-year-old girl.
It's just interesting. It's just what we were saying earlier. How some serial killers like Jeffrey Dahmer, and it's for good reason. Jeffrey Dahmer was like super unique and cannibal, all that stuff. And then there's other killers that do just as many or worse. No one's heard of them. I've never heard of this woman.
No. Never heard of her either.
I don't know. It's just weird how it's all media and press that determines that, obviously. And it's interesting. But I think a lot of it is because back in the old times, newspapers and media didn't want to highlight how shitty and dangerous their city was.
No.
They wouldn't cover that. Nowadays, it's like...
Doesn't make a good postcard for Lake Charles.
Yeah, nowadays, people want that, and news want to deliver it, so that has a lot to do with it, too.
All right, you got one left. Number 6.
Yeah. Is it in the South?
Nope.
Is it Massachusetts?
Nope.
I was thinking Boston. Is it Minnesota?
Nope.
Montana?
Nope.
That can't be it. Georgia?
Nope.
No, you said not the South. So, New Jersey?
Nope.
Damn it. Tennessee?
Nope.
Missouri?
Nope.
Indiana?
Nope.
Kentucky?
Nope.
North Carolina?
Nope.
Did I say Utah?
Yes, but nope.
Oregon?
Yes.
Got it. Can't hide this list from me. I'm too good.
It was really fun to see how fast I could recognize what you were saying and say nope to it. Oregon.
Am the guess master.
So compared to other states, Oregon has a relatively low rate of violent crime per capita. In fact, with 232 violent incidents reported per year for every 100,000 citizens, Oregon is overall one of the least violent states in the country. However, while statistics show Oregon is a generally peaceful place to live, serial killings occur with more frequency per capita in this state than almost anywhere else in the nation. 7.36 serial murders per million residents in Oregon. There's another distinction for murders committed in Oregon. While a great majority of serial murderers use firearms, there is a high rate of strangulations in the state of Oregon, with a total of 52 people who died in this manner. So
how's it so peaceful, but then there's so many killers?
Somebody who did a little bit of strangulation, fellow goes by the name of Jerry Brudos, serial killer and necrophile.
Yeah, I fucking hate Jerry Brudos.
You know what a necrophile is? It's not good. Murdered at least 4 women in 1968 and 1969, Jerry Brudos had a fetish for women's high-heeled shoes. He cut off body parts of ladies and he kept them for trophies. Like he had a boob filled with sand that he used for a paperweight.
And you know, he kept all this in his garage, right?
Yeah, in his nasty little shed.
He had a garage or shed that was like his man cave, and he kept it locked. And he lived with a wife, and I don't know if they had kids or not, but...
Don't ever go in there.
Yeah, if you... Listen to me. I'm giving you advice right now, all the listeners out there. If you are living with the husband or wife, there's a part of your own home that you live in that you're not allowed to go to. That is a red flag.
Get in that place now.
That is a red flag.
Immediately.
Every time. Sorry. It's just like...
You got to get in there. You got to look around.
It's just like you don't let people in your hot dog room.
Why does that room stink so bad? Let's see what else he did here. He dressed in high heels and jerked off after he committed a murder.
Yes.
Oregon was also home to Randall Woodfield. You ever heard of this guy?
No, not ringing a bell.
Some might know him as the I-5 killer. He was dubbed that by the media. You may also know him as 1974 NFL Green Bay Packers wide receiver.
He's a serial killer?
When he was in high school, he got arrested for decent exposure. And despite that, he went on to be drafted by the NFL in 1974 to play wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers. This goes to show you can whip your dick out, and if you're still good at football, make all those problems go away. But he got cut from the team during training after a series of, what? You guessed it, indecent exposure arrests. He could not fucking stop. He couldn't keep his dick in his pants at all.
And nowadays, if that happens, you become a successful Hollywood actor or talk show host.
Now you're just Brett Favre. So in 1975, he's back home, whipping his dick out all over the place, began a string of robberies and sexual assaults on women in Portland, before moving on to commit multiple murders in cities along the I-5 corridor in Washington, California, and Oregon. The one I really wanted to tell you about today, actually, I don't have a whole ton on this. I just liked the name. Have you ever heard of Dayton Leroy Rogers?
It's a hell of a name, but no.
Well, this isn't the name I was excited about, but Dayton Leroy Rogers is currently on Oregon's death row, waiting to get killed.
Yeah.
Because he committed 6 murders. He's tied to the 6 murders of 7 women. He's guilty, I guess, of 6 of them. He preferred street women. Those are whores or sex workers.
Thank you.
Can you say whores?
We're
there
not
something
going
wrong
to.
with whore?
I don't know, but we're not going to because I'm erring on the side of caution. We're a very politically correct podcast.
All right, hookers. Is
Sex
hookers
workers.
bad?
What's wrong with the same phrase you've been using the entire show so far?
Well, this says street women, and street women is defined more liberally. So let me say he likes street women, usually addicts, sex workers, and runaways. And there might be some overlap between them. But anyway, this guy Rogers, he had sex with him and murdered him.
Oh.
And then he put him in a dump site located in a privately owned forest land outside Molalla, Oregon. So he was called the Molalla Forest Murderer.
Sorry, were you just speaking in tongues there for a second?
Molalla.
You were in the middle of telling me where he's from.
It sounds like a fairy tale type place, but it's not. I mean,
fairy tale for a serial killer.
That's a shitty fairy tale. So that's that. Those are the states with the most serial killers.
And if you're a Green Bay Packer, you're a serial killer.
Well, this guy was. I mean, I don't know, a white wide receiver is a little odd.
Wow. Hot take?
Especially one that's been whipping his dick out all the time.
Yeah.
So the states with the most serial killers, once again, number 7 was Louisiana, home to the Axeman and Clementine. How did I say that?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Barnabet.
I'm an Axeman.
The number 6 was Oregon. Number 5 was Washington. Number 4, California. Number 3, Florida. Number 2 is Nevada. And the number 1 state, the most serial killers per capita. Whew, way too many. Probably 1 is too many. Alaska. Now, was this the last Spooktober podcast, or is there one more spooky one to come?
There's one more.
Well,
is that okay?
I've primed the pump. Now you gotta spook us over the finish line.
Well, I already know what I'm gonna do, and it's a good one. But it's also one that non-spook lovers can enjoy too. You'll see what I mean. But yeah, I guess I'm never visiting any state in the United States ever again.
You need to keep your ass put where you are.
I need to go to Canada. Any Canadians out there can help me get in, hit me up, send me a DM. Well, I feel like after all the rape, murder, torture, chopped off heads, family aside, what's the term for a severed head blowing you like Ed Kemper?
Irrumatio.
And all the irrumatio we've had tonight, I feel like we need a palate cleanser. Would you agree?
Yeah.
We're going to cleanse the fuck out of our palates right now with some podcast reviews. First up from Dylan H36 on Apple Podcasts. Listening to this podcast reminds me of all the fun times I had sitting around with my friends comparing and arguing about all the things we love. These guys clearly get along. These guys clearly get along and have fun.
Just a couple of fun boys?
I'm just letting it linger. These guys clearly get along and have fun doing what they're doing, and I absolutely appreciate the quality of the content they are putting out after several years. Couple of points here. Number 1, it's fucked up that we've been doing this for several years, but it's true. Secondly, do we get along and do we have fun? Brandon, you first.
Hell yeah.
All right. Hell yeah.
I'm having a good time.
I'm having a great time. Thank you, Dylan. And now from Devin. I have been loving listening through both new episodes and the huge backlog of content. Would definitely recommend including to other podcast makers. It's a great inspiration. We're inspiring people, Brandon. We're inspiring creators.
Oh, to create? Not to...
You talking about Inratio or whatever the fuck.
Yeah,
is inspiring people. You know, I think what's really inspiring people is my Axeman song. Should I do it again?
Nope, don't do that.
I'm an Axeman. If you want me to read your review on this show, go to Apple Podcasts or podchaser.com. Write a review. Brandon, from one bumble butt to another. This has been fun. And what else is fun is following our asses on social media. You can follow me on Twitter at TheNickEmel. TheNickEmel. Brandon, how do they follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter at PsychicHost.
It's a great way to get one tweet every 3 or 4 months. Another place you can follow us is at tennispod, 10ishpod. You can follow us at that same handle on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And now we've relaunched YouTube. So go to youtube.com, search for Tennis Podcast, hit that subscribe button. You can listen to full episodes categorized by topic. And next week, we'll be back with the final episode of Spooktober 2020 to get through the worst fucking October of the worst fucking year of my life. And I'll have a list for you for episode 105.
Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for listening. We will see you next time.
Thank you.